All right, so we are back, Senate Health and Welfare. It's still April 21st, and we're going to walk through the newest draft of page 660. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, still Katie McLean, Office of Legislative Counsel. Here's your latest draft. So I'm just bringing you right to the new language, and then if you want to look at the rest of the draft, you can. Page 7, it's highlighted in blue, which I know you have hard copies. It's hard to see the blue on the hard copy. It's going to be easier for you to see electronically. Why don't I make this bigger on the screen to help you?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. So this is a new section. It's requiring quarterly reporting on the use of the opioid abatement special fund monies. So this requires the Department of Health to submit to the General Assembly quarterly reports regarding expenditures from the special fund. Specifically, the report shall identify funds appropriated by the special fund that remain unobligated or unspent, or both, and shall include an explanation as to why the funds have not been fully distributed. Reports due on October 1st of 26 and July 1 of 27 are to be submitted to the Joint Fiscal Committee. Reports due January 1 of 27 and April 1 of 27 are to be submitted to the policy committees and the appropriations committees. And this requires the department post reports on its website as well. And that is it for new language.
So the reason for that language is to ensure that the money that's been appropriated from the fund is actually getting out the door to the folks who are expecting it, so that they can do the work that they have. Second with you. This is more of a polite way to say, please get the money to the organizations, individuals, in a timely fashion. Well, so any other new, I see the yellow.
Yellow is holdover, highlighting. Again, I'm trying to retain highlighting to make it easier for the other body to see your changes. If that becomes too confusing, we can.
No, that's very good. Thank you. So do you want to do a quick
run through the
higher
thing?
level?
Yep. Okay. So in section 1, we have all of the appropriations from the opioid abatement special fund. I won't go through all of them, but these are fiscal year 27 appropriations. We've gone through these a few times. Most recent changes were in subdivision 6 that had been an A and B subdivision, and instead both of those appropriations were combined into one. And then last time we went through it, subdivisions 15 and 16 on page 4 were new, and that's $800,000 for the Department of Health distribution to recovery centers, and $287,000 to the Department of Public Service to provide funding for expanding the public safety enhancement team's harm reduction and strategic community intervention efforts. And then in section 2 of the bill, this is language. It's amending language that had been enacted in 2023. There's a reversion related to some of this language, but all this does is change some of the narrative around what the money could be used for. Subdivision 3, this is amending the existing statutory language on the Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee. So specifically, we have this committee consulting with the Health Equity Advisory Commission. And then this new sentence that each ongoing funding proposal considered by the advisory committee is to include a sustainability plan from the applicant to ensure consideration of future expenses and available resources apart from the special fund. Next is a review of the appropriations and a suspension of fiscal year 28 proposals. So this language directs that the committee is not to accept funding proposals for fiscal year 28 unless the proposal previously received funding from the special fund. that's a change from the House version that limited it to appropriations that were indicated in statute to be ongoing appropriations. So this expands it to any program that has received funding in the past. It instead shall review outcomes of programs and initiatives previously funded through the special fund to assess effectiveness, long-term sustainability, and the appropriateness of the special fund as a funding source where applicable. Funds are available after making fiscal year 28 appropriations recommendations. Let me start over and speak it. If funds are available after making fiscal year 28 appropriations recommendations for previously funded programs and initiatives, the advisory committee shall identify specific areas of focus and shall make funding recommendations within those areas based on needs assessments and statewide data rather than on requesting new proposals. Section 5, we just went through, that's the quarterly reporting. Section 6 is language with the 3 reversions. And section 7 is the effective date.
I will request for the language addition on page 4, number 14. Yeah, I guess, I don't know if you all will be amenable to this, but if it could say something like the 800,000 to the Department of Health for distribution to recovery centers according to the recommendations of Recovery Partners of Vermont, or according to the needs of identified recovery centers. Identified 5 recovery centers.
So this language comes from the advisory committee, and I don't know the extent to which your language would be different from what the advisory committee is recommending.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I can't tell you if it's been okay. Distribution recovery centers, there is a printout that I have, the spreadsheet for how much money the recovery centers are getting. That's already been determined, I think, the Department of Health. Yes, but you want to comment on this?
Justice Department of Health.
Did I say justice?
No, you said justice.
Okay, you're good. I sometimes call you Jeff.
Yeah. So this has been an issue in the past with the Budget Adjustment Act previously, where there was concern that there was intent about how this was distributed and that was not followed by the Department of Health. We did talk with House Appropriations early in the session about this. We do, for the base funding that we give to the recovery centers, we do have a formula that is based on an amount that goes to all of the 12 recovery centers, and then an additional amount based on the number of people in the catchment area, so that it does adjust for the population that they're serving. So I think we would like the flexibility to make sure that the funding is distributed appropriately to all 12 recovery centers throughout the state. We have flexibility to do that. I will say that this appropriation to the recovery centers was not part of the recommendations of either the settlement committee or the department, so there wouldn't have been any discussion of how the money was intended to be distributed there. So I think as the Department of Health, we prefer that to have the flexibility and work with the recovery centers to figure out.
I mean, the alternative is just to shake it out, because it could use more policy discussion, but I think leaving it the way it is allows for the Department of Health flexibility they need to support all as well. And I have seen some of the data on that. That makes sense. Doesn't leave people out. I know there's a lot of interest on the part of the recovery centers.
Thanks. Thank you for considering.
First of all, is this basically an annual bill that we have to do in order to pull the funds out.
That's the approach.
So, and this bill does it line up with the House proposal as far as the dollars are concerned?
Now, I'll get to that. I haven't even-
Well, you
I haven't
can go
seen-
through the money.
There's a new, those new subdivisions 14 and 15 are new expenses. So Nolan made a new sheet based on this. one. So he,
I was there when I come up.
Looking connected to that. Sorry, Madam Chair.
What?
I said, sorry. I got ahead of myself.
Nothing unusual.
That's true. That's true.
Any other questions?
there's the one.
So the question I got there on number 15, was that also in the advisory committee report or not?
It was, my sheet will show that. Why don't I get to that when I,
Okay, we'll have you do that. That'll be
yeah,
all.
it'll show you. I'll.
Okay. Any other questions for Katie on this? But thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing in the new language. I think that's really important.
Now that I'm up here, you can't ask Kate questions, you can ask Katie. For the record, I'm no longer this go out, and so I need to pull up my thing, but I have fresh hard copies for you. Again, I don't want to be too much paper, but this is one of those things that's so helpful to have paper.
It sure is, especially when we look at that.
And I'll flag to you what the difference is.
Oh, yeah, you got it right up here.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah.
So what I have here is the updated sheet. So I made all the changes in red. The numbers on the side do not align with the sections of the bill, just so you know. If you go look at the top of the page, just to orient you. I added in, so you have H660 draft 3.1, which is what Katie just presented. I also added H951 as passed the Senate Appropriations Committee, because there's also some changes in that bill that affect the opioid. So what I want to do is just kind of flag what those are. The first one is the recovery center. So your bill, the current version is still at $800,000, but also the budget has $400,000 for recovery center. And I think what happened was there was both places. So I decided the chair was out sick, so there was a request for $800,000 for the recovery centers, and it made it to both places. And so I think that the committee over there heard, okay, we want to do $800,000, and the committee here heard, great, we want to do $800,000. I think it's the same request, showing up in two places. Now, it was knocked down to 400,000 in the Senate Appropriations Committee, because at that time, they were trying to figure out how do we get to the numbers we want to do? And so anyway, that was the decision that they made. So it's your call whether you want it in both places or if you want to consider a double count. That's your call. It's political. I'm not getting into it.
So here's my question about this. All of this money comes from the
Same place,
settlement fund.
same place.
So it's a total of over $1 million from the settlement fund for recovery centers, which we have not really taken a lot of testimony for in terms of policy distribution and so on. We know it's important. And this was outside of the committee recommendation, the advisory committee recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am probably thinking we should go along with what the appropriations committee has done with that. I really don't like. I don't like second guessing the advisory committee. Really don't. I have no idea what testimony they took on the centers. I don't know what other proposals are out there that haven't received funding. That might have been turned down because I'm going to have over 67 requests. Like RFPs now. They did a lot of work in that committee. But I don't want to undermine their work. At the same time, we don't want to leave recovery centers high and dry. Therein lies some choice. So I'm open to leaving it at 400,000. That's in 951. But that's just thinking off the top of my head.
I would advocate for 800 only because recovery seems to be a real.
Big deal, right?
It's a big deal and it seems like it's a priority for so many of us. And I mean, I think you know that the invoices weren't getting paid on a timely fashion, so it caused a lot of funding issues with the recovery centers, and they're still trying to dig out of that hole. So I'll make that point.
So remember, we're talking about peer supported centers. Yeah, yeah. Very,
So you're saying they're doing the 800 plus 4
No. Thank you.
and nothing. But they've already passed out the bill with. Oh,
well, if we say we want 800 and not just 4, then we should lower the number.
right, that's,
Yeah.
that's what you.
Right.
Your options are, you can do 400 here and 400 there if you want to get to 800.
Yeah.
Or you can do it all in one bill or the other. I would recommend you do it in one bill or the other, and not both, just because it gets confusing for the administration to figure out how to administer things.
So we'd have, yeah, sorry about that.
No, I'm saying theory, you'd want to have, fine.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's already gonna be confusing because you have the opioid bill was supposed to be, this is where everything's going, and then there's some changes in the budget.
Yeah.
So it's already gonna be confusing, but the less you can make it confusing, the easier it is for the administration to administer.
How would we achieve making it less confusing?
You would put it all in one bill or the other.
But someone just said one of them, it's already passed.
Yeah,
951 is the big bill.
Ship has sailed, so.
well, this conference,
There you go.
there's always conference committee. But I mean, yes, the ship has sailed. And you could still do what you want to do and make your intent. I mean, you could still do 400, make your intent clear and then fix it in conference, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying that you have options. I'm not telling you what to advocate. I'm just sort of helping you understand the complications of it. But nonetheless, the only thing I will say is it's still all coming out of the same fund. So if I need to do 400 or 400 or 400, 800, or just all 800, it's still coming out of the same pot. It's just a different vehicle to take the money.
So let me comment on the different vehicles. So what we have in place is a process. We're utilizing the special fund. The process includes an advisory committee that works really hard over the summer into the fall and makes recommendations. Then, after all of that is done, if someone goes into another committee, the appropriations committee, and says, look, this is a real urgent need, we have to put it in. That's what's happening. And it's undermining the process that we've been trying to use. And I don't mind those requests coming in here, when it starts to go to appropriations and taking money out where the policy conversation hasn't happened. This happened last year, we stopped it. It was also another recovery. So I'm not thrilled with the idea of leaving it in the budget. That's all. And that's more certainly.
So Madam Chair, if I may, I might recommend that I walk through the rest of the sheet before you get into the
Let's do it.
recovery
Let's
center conversation, because the full picture might help inform the conversation.
thank
So
you.
the second thing, there's only two things that are in the budget, but I felt the sheet was gonna help clarify what's coming out of the budget and what the real bottom line is gonna be. The second piece was, as you recall, in the budget, the administration had proposed and the House had concurred with this idea of the opioid recovery employment program, also known as hireability. It had been in, Act 16 of 2025 for 850,000. This is why I love this chart because it shows you the history. If I can shoot my own horn. And then the administration's justification was that, hey, the idea behind the fund is if we find a program that is successful, let's put it in the base. So that's what they had done. In the Senate Appropriations bill, there was a sense that, like, yes, we agree hireability is successful, but given the challenges of the budget and other priorities, the decision was made to put it back into the opioid abatement fund one time that we free up general fund with some intent language saying going forward, it should become base, not this year. So it was sort of like, thinking about how the budget construct is, the decision was made in appropriations that for this year, it was better suited to be funded out of the opioid fund.
But next year, base.
But next year, base, not this year.
And there's intent language in the budget.
There's intent language in the budget, so that's where that is. And then the next one down, number 7, the 1.2, this was that combining the 900 and the 300,000 into one appropriation. So just that's the case that's there. And then your question about or maybe it was the chair's question about public safety enhancement. Oh, there's a typo. Not enhancement, enhancement, not enhancement.
Oh,
So if that was part of the VDH recommendation, not the OSAC recommendation in 287. So you're in this one, you're saying we agree with the health department recommendation if you leave it at. And then the last piece, if I could just bring you down to the center of the last page, you'll see total fiscal year, the second yellow box, total fiscal year 27 recommendations. Because now I'm creating 2 new columns, one for the budget, one for 660. You can see, so H660 as in this proposal spent 6.25 million. H951 would spend 1.275 million. Again, that is combining of the 875 and the 400. So total unappropriated balance as of February was 11.8 million. And so if you do both the House, if you do both the Senate bill and H660, you're leaving 4.35 million on the bottom line. Now, granted, that's the balance that doesn't take into consideration in my fiscal note. I don't have this on the board. You can see that in 2028, 2027, we're gonna get another 4.1 million. In 2028, we're getting another 4.8 million. So just there's more money coming in, but point is that you can see at the end of this year, you had $11.8 million unappropriated. Next year, you'll have left. You'll have 4.3 plus 4.1, right? So you have 4.4. So you have 8.4. So you have a little bit less.
yeah.
But isn't that supposed to happen?
Yeah, I'm just telling you what the,
Yeah.
and, it's less than the previous year too. I'm just trying to show you like
Right.
that again, it does take into consideration the anticipated Purdue settlement folks get as well. So I'm just telling you, helping you understand what that bottom line looks like. There's still plenty of money in there. There'll be less to play with next year. So to your point, that's the point, is to spend this money on prevention and this, or and recovery, and that's what this. So I just wanted you to see the bottom line before you have the conversation about what to do with recovery centers. So you spend it now or you spend it later, it's your call in terms of how and what you want to do and where you want to do it. So I just wanted to inform you so that you have to make an educated decision and conversation about what you want to do. So I hope this sheet is helpful. Yes, absolutely.
Is anyone else?
I said myself. So can I ask the question that I think of the opioid, OPC?
What about,
The OPC enrollment,
what about,
where is it?
it's not in there because there's no money appropriated this year. So if you go all the way to the bottom of the second page, you'll see that the history of it is there. But there's no money appropriated in any of the current bills.
So is there language? I mean, if they put anything in the-
Nothing in the budget on this that I remember.
There's no language that says release it, release the credit, release the funds.
There's language, Senator Gulick's language around, why haven't you spent the money?
Right.
At
That would, okay,
least the house, at least the funds.
okay. So if we go through the bill, and looking at your spreadsheet, Nolan, and Katie is right there, ready to help us. So what I'm looking for here is what's different from the spreadsheet and from what the advisory committee recommended. And what's been added in, trying to sort out those things that we were talking about. But so why don't we just go through all of the projects, initiatives.
And again, just to remind you, the numbers that are on the sheet do not match the number of sections in the bill. It's just how I numbered it in the sheet.
Okay. Oh, this is what it is. Bring it up.
So the first five are all six.
Those are all existing, ongoing.
Well, Department of Health, the committee, about 3.3, 3.5.
Those are the ones that are in the bill.
Yeah.
There were other recommendations. No, actually, these I think were all,
But so Madam Chair says that 800 is going to be down to 400.
I mean, we could simply put 400,000 in this bill and leave 400,000 in the big bill.
Office.
If there were a way to, because I don't, whatever we put in this bill, I think is gonna be static. Yeah, and I don't see this bill changing. In which I'll see if office committee, might see a friend proposal amendment. But, so if the total were to be 800,000. It's too late to go put it in that.
yes. I think you do a floor
I
amendment,
didn't say 400.
but that's,
That would be fun.
So let's do four. David, what would you have to do before to take it back?
I'm not concerned about doing that as much. I am concerned that we're seeing this happen. I think it's really inappropriate. We can't let this happen. This is our job to allow for the advisory committee to get its work done.
Did the advisory take testimony on the timing of the funds being distributed, or I assume they did, but that seems like an important piece of the puzzle.
The advisory committee is limited in what it can do. It's not an oversight committee. Our role is oversight. We now have oversight language in the bill. I think that the Department of Health and Surgical different. The money needs to go out the door. That people need it. They need to receive it. And I included it at the OPC. If the OPC all of a sudden opens up and they need all that money, they should get it. They should get their from the whole thing. So, so now the report is going to joint fiscal, and joint fiscal could provide oversight as well. For that. The distribution of funds. The other thing that we haven't chatted about is, the work that's going on with RHT, rural health transformation. And how much money is going into the rural parts of the state for any of this work. So I know that there are a lot of proposals that went to the advisory committee that were burned down, some transitional housing and transitional coverage for, folks getting from prison. That wasn't funded. Is RHD taking it? That's, I mean, there's just so much mixed in here. So if we change what the advisory is done, we have no idea where we're going. Because they've done it with. So unless, and we clear the bill, it's the bills we have. Have set a pathway in the system for the public state.
With all of the respect to the post stack, we and I both commented about how we felt Chipping County may not have seen all of this. So, yes, there is a geographic issue.
Yeah, there is. There really is. So, so committee, what do you want to do about 800,000?
Change it to 400, so that's my recommendation. No one else is saying.
The choice is to take it out, leave it in, or change it to 400.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
is what we had told you.
Yeah.
okay.
Unfortunately, it's not 8 to 400, so do 400 here and 400 in the budget.
Well, we can't take it out of the budget and put 400 here.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah, no, yes, that's it.
just for Katie's sake, if you want to change the 800.
Yes, baby.
Okay, subdivision 14.
So I'm seeing magic grants, it's not in the budget.
It's up,
I'm seeing one behind you say it's not in the budget.
it is in the budget.
Okay, I would.
I've seen it all. Who's shaking their head? Yes.
Is it not accounting for this bill? I was told they would accounting for this bill in the budget. But it's not like we will go each.
If there is.
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
She's saying,
Sorry, my first action circles. I'm really just trying to get clarity, because my understanding was they were just put accounting for what they thought you all would do with this bill in the budget, but I do trust Nolan and
the language that I saw,
I wasn't there for that conversation.
the language that I saw, I understand why, I totally understand where you're coming from. And usually what happens is there's two places, you like count the section on the bottom where we count for money that's in the bills. But we didn't do that for this bill. There is an appropriation for $400,000 to the health department coming out of special funds in the budget. And if I'm wrong, you can come to me and say, hold you so.
Why did you listen?
It'll be an interesting conversation during conference.
But I will quadruple check. I,
Just check, yeah. Okay, but it says notwithstanding 18 say 4774. I remember that.
that's in the budget?
It says the Department of Health, for fiscal year 2027 funds are appropriated for the following. Subdivision 3, notwithstanding 18 VSA 4774, 400,000 opioid abatement special fund for grants to recovery centers.
That's in the language, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that. All right, we'll get to the bottom of it.
That just would like.
Okay, so here's the
We're
bottom.
talking about all of this bill.
We want 800.
We want a special fund.
Kate, is that the Senate?
Exactly. That's the version.
I don't know why we did that either.
And we're not.
What's next? We're gonna look at all that.
I
Okay,
understand your concern. We'll figure it out.
okay, so the committee's overall agreement is a total of 800,000. If it stays the same, very good.
Well, it shows up in the ups and downs, so it's not actually the way before, not the ups and downs.
I went through all the way before.
All right, sounds like we have to stick some language in conference. I don't know the language.
So how do we, so this is the budget.
I think it's, as far as I'm concerned, and I will confirm, my interpretation is that the budget is accounting for it.
That's what I,
We're accounting for, I don't understand the language issue, like Katie just flagged, I think she doesn't understand it either. And so we'll
okay.
work on it,
Yeah, okay,
I-
let's put 400,000 in the bill. And then. We can deal with
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
it. This demonstrates exactly why we can't do what I was saying, because the things that happen with this would need to stay in one place. Once they flop from everywhere else, it's yes. This is just what we think. Everybody gets so enthusiastic. Okay, so we were there. And that 875, that 875. That's better. That's good. Um, okay,
So that's the same. The 875 is on one time basically, and it's going to be built in the base moving forward.
right.
The intent.
That's
So that's the,
that's the thing. That's a lot of money to put in the base this year.
Yeah.
And there are other needs that that we've been looking at, including some recommendations. Yeah, that'll. Um, the new funding. Right, anything there we need to. Or perhaps not, that one.
Yeah, so you have the 1.2, that's just to combine 900 and the 300 into one appropriation. And then the other new one is the public safety enhancement, which wasn't in the House bill, it was a VDH recommendation. That you're proposing, but
I, talk to me a little bit more about that. The VDL, well, Department of Health wants it at VDA.
Department.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
they can.
Love your money.
That's good, we'd like to talk about it.
Jessica Schwann, Department of Health. This was as part of the Department of Health's recommendations, we worked with others in administration. So this is actually a request from the Department of Public Safety. And when you had initial testimony from Sheila Livingston, you also heard from Dan Batesy, who represented the Department of Public Safety and gave some more explanation of what they were looking to do with that money. So I would refer you back to that testimony or hear from the Department of Public Safety for more detail on that.
Do you, is it your understanding, Jessica, that was this a proposal that went to the advisory committee and it was turned down?
Jessica Schwann, Department of Health. Yes, this was a request that was made to OSAC, and when they did their rankings, it was not among the top projects that they had reviewed.
And they haven't been funded in the past.
No. They haven't been,
It's not in the budget.
no, it hadn't been funded, this is a
Yeah, it was
new,
granted.
new recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, unless there's disagreement, let's leave it for them and allow for more local community intervention efforts. That we're in reduction. Okay. So then numbers 12 through 15 are all boilerplate from the advisory committee in that house.
Fifteen is an interesting one, I must know.
This is really important to the house. This again, so this is the number 13 and number 15. I believe, and Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were added by House Human Services. And they felt very strongly about
Number 13
And the,
and 15.
Yeah.
15 for that here. 14 and 15 were added.
No, it's not on my sheets, not yours.
Oh, I'm looking at the, I'm sorry.
There.
The trends have changed.
That was added in the services.
Yeah, okay. And then the other one, and Nolan does, you do identify it was added by Human Services, and they felt very strongly that it needs to be funded. And this is the way to do that. And it's one-time funding.
Yeah, I think the OSAC recommended and Human Services agreed with,
Yeah,
and then also the House agreed with.
okay.
so there's something going on with this be obviously that. Where there's a whole bunch of other things that have the same issue, so that's what some public events.
Yeah.
It's not as what we did, that's.
So let's leave those
Editor.
in. And then that offers some justification for what we. You know, move on to the round. And then. What else is there more?
Those are the bit, you know, otherwise, I mean, everything's on the table, right? Like,
Yeah,
no matter if you agree with what the House did, what did they do you don't want to do, what did they not do that you do want to do? We agree.
well. Sure.
I'm excited about the new recovery beds, the higher certification level. Do we know how many of those are?
What number are you looking at?
Oh, sorry, number 7. We know how many new beds, I don't remember. I'm just curious.
I can't see.
Okay,
It could be in the report. The recommendations. So they were,
so,
so
that
that was in both the BDH
I was just curious.
and the OSAC recs.
Okay,
Well, it's a matter of.
the Green Mountain Recovery Center is in, where is it?
Where is Green Mountain Recovery Center?
That's,
Do you know?
it doesn't exist. That's, that would be,
And we're giving them to,
I would defer to Jessica.
where is the Green Mountain Recovery?
Jessica Chapano, Department of Health. So this is, the recommendation, the language that you have in 660 is, just specifies that this money would be going to, the department to get the recovery residences that are supporting level 3 or higher. So this is not a specific place. It's not earmarked to anything. It would just, the application is that it would be used for new recovery beds at that higher level. Yeah.
Okay,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
thank you. All right, I'm gonna have one more question. So Nolan, is there within all of the spreadsheet financing that we have here, is the money that is owed to the OPC this year considered to be encumbered? And where is it?
On the sheet, this sheet only reflects
What's in the bill?
what's in the bill.
Yeah.
But that money is considered appropriated, allotted, and unspent. So it's, the bottom line accounts for that money.
Okay,
So it's accounting for that money being appropriated out. This is money that's in the bottom line that's unallocated.
okay. Now, then ask Katie a question.
You don't agree?
Wait,
Don't know if the question was about the 1.1 that was not in this, but
yes,
was intended to also have an appropriation for 1.1 this year that we did,
yes,
not the previous appropriation.
yes.
So you're asking if we're.
Previous appropriations are already appropriate,
Yes,
and there's 1.1 for this year. That should also be considered
No,
appropriate.
no, it's not.
Why not?
If it's not in the bill, it's not appropriated.
It's under initiatives. They did it last year, they did 2025, but. Yeah, the committee wanted to do it. They made a recommendation, but that's for next.
So Act 16, 2025 is for fiscal year 26. There's money in the 26 budget. We did it last year. But you're not appropriating any new money anywhere for 1.1. So this doesn't account for that because you haven't done it in the budget or you haven't done it here.
So there's no money for OPC.
There's no money in any of the new bills for OPC.
So however, in prior bills that we have passed, the OPC was promised this money this year, 1.1 million.
Yep.
That was promised within prior legislation.
Technically 2.2 because they've gotten 2 appropriations for 1.1.
So they should be getting another appropriation of 1.1.
That's your call. But you'd have to add it to the bill.
And it's nowhere else in appropriations, something like that.
It's nowhere.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And it's a real bone of contention because the OPC, yes, it's not yet operational, but they are looking for a venue. And once they find it, they're gonna need all the money they can get to fit up and put the program in place.
What did they do with the 2.2?
They haven't used it yet.
Okay, so they're holding it.
They spent about 400, I thought.
Yeah.
Something. They spent a little bit of money like in like other things, staffing and whatever they need to do to try to find places. They're
Yeah.
spending it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
And then there's also the ability for them to get the money.
That's probably why they didn't.
It's been a study to find a location.
So I guess, or we could put 1.1 in here this year. Or we could put some language indicating that or reaffirming what the OPC is. Hey, I don't know where the original language is.
The original language for the appropriation
For
in last year's bill.
OPC 2 years ago.
So it's in Act 16 of 2025 or the Act 178 of 2024.
I think it was 24. Yeah, it's hard to. Do
So
that.
you have, there's a couple of things you could do. You could appropriate the money. You could put intent language saying that if the OPC finds a location and needs the money, that the administration should do a budget adjustment, sorry, ideas. Or you could do like contingency language, not a, I'm just throwing out ideas.
Appropriate the money contingent on these factors we got.
If the money, if they find a location and meet these factors, then the money can be released or something like, I mean, it's complicated.
I
Like,
think that language.
I don't know how that, I mean, that's, I'll leave that.
Might be,
I don't know if that's.
especially you'd have to be very specific about what your contingencies are.
What is in Act 178? Just one of the location is better. When a location is.
Not or contract or purchase or.
The location is available, is ready to go.
Or if it's, identified.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jared, the $850,000, I remember there was a lot of discussion on that, whether it had been released, whether it hadn't been released.
Which one do you want?
I'm sorry. 3. I'm just thinking, if you wanted to try to use that 850 down in the, just move that down into your
No,
OPC.
no, we're looking at the fund and the residual fund.
Oh, I,
Yeah. So, other than it's already.
yeah, good.
Department of Health recommended nothing. OSAC recommended 1.1 million for the OPs. Oh, I'm feeling qualms about putting the 1.1 million. Would be safe.
I'm looking at the language from last year. So you did 1.1 to the Department of Health. Sorry, are you still on? Did you jump away from
No,
that?
we're on
You're still
that. That's
Okay.
one.
For the purpose of awarding grants to the city of Burlington for establishing an overdose prevention center. Upon submission of a grant proposal that has been approved by the Burlington City Council. And it can be a secretary to six. That is, including guidelines developed by the Department of Health. It's the intent of the General Assembly to continue this appropriation.
It's the intent of the General Assembly and continuous appropriation.
Yeah, for the purpose of awarding grants to the city of Burlington for the operation of the overdose prevention center unless there are no funds available.
Unless what?
There are no funds available.
So. I think I'm fine with putting the 1.1 million. And it won't be sent out until they send in a bill and says, this is what we need.
Is it new money or is it carrying over?
It's just reducing your balance.
They have carry forward, and this would be adding new money.
So you're gonna go into like 3, then 3, but then you're gonna take out the whole part.
If we don't do this and we keep going, we're gonna have a backlog of money every year. And then think about how that adds up, and that reduces the bottom. So we're just trying, if we keep it moving along, if the OPC fails and doesn't go through, that money will still be in the fund. It can be reappropriated in some other way. But right now, if we don't account for it, we don't account for it. In 3 years, you got $3.3 million that you didn't account for. The fund is in. So
You could also, if you're torn on money, you want to make effort, you don't have to do 1.1, you could do half of it. You know, I'm just trying to throw out ideas like, that shows your intent and your commitment to the project. I'm throwing out ideas here, you know, like,
Yeah, there's a lot of good work happening around the OPC. It's just a question of finding a location. I think a lot of people are working on creating a really unique program.
and it could be amazing.
Yeah,
With behavioral health and
that's
everything.
exactly.
What,
It could be a mom.
what is this? The annual revenue that's coming into the state from this fund start reducing it, so.
so it's 4.1 and 27, 4.76 and 20, these are all estimated.
Yeah. I remember.
So it kind of goes up.
Drops off a lot.
And then and then it peaks at 29, then it reduces in 2030, it drops significantly in 2033.
Okay, so it's out there.
It's way out.
And remember, we do have a potentially another settlement coming in as well.
Correct.
So I don't wanna,
I was just concerned if it's gonna shut down right off where these existing ongoing projects, we were gonna really impact it eventually. But it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like we're going to.
No.
so, okay. Well, I got more room for the 4 point, what's left? Yes.
4.3. And we could reduce it further
Well, I think it goes back to your comment of like, it's a committee that works on this and works hard to figure out how to balance the funds. Yeah, we should pay attention to what their recommendations are.
I agree with that. I agree particularly in this case. This is a difficult, so really difficult project. And to detract from it before it's ready to fly. And there is huge potential. So
But if we get that, which shows the commitment.
well, then it would mean that we felt was only worth having.
Well, I don't look at it that way, they're still not really up and running, so they have roughly $2 million, money backed up at the moment. They're not gonna
And what happens if they go other way and they need to pull? So that, cutting it in half doesn't do anything. Except say we're cutting it in half to satisfy the Department of Health's recommendation to do nothing. So I'm inclined to, I wasn't inclined earlier, but I'm very much inclined to go along with the OSAC recommendation.
So are you looking at approving the initiatives to?
I'm adding $1.1 million to the bill.
Okay, not the 815, not the 840.
No, I'm down at the bottom of the second page,
Yeah, me too.
the very last.
Yeah.
Overdose.
But the advisory committee is recommending more. OSAC, right?
They recommended 1.1, which was the next year's appropriation for the,
Yep. I'm just saying that the advisory committee recommended more in the initiatives than 1.1. They recommended the 850,000, which wasn't, they didn't recommend on the first page.
no, you're looking at the wrong.
Oh,
Look at the pale blue line at the bottom.
So I think where you're confusing is recommended for future funding, but not fiscal year 27.
yeah.
So so both of them are like, we think it needs to be continued to be funded, we're just not including it in for the 27 recommendation.
How do we say we recommend it for the future without encumber?
You could do tense.
They recommend one thing.
It's yes, I'm sorry.
Is the intent of the general
I
assembly?
mean, tense is simplest, but it's not binding, right? So
I would go further than that. It's aspirational. So if you're
Yeah.
doing 1.1 million.
Hold on a second, I want to listen to Katie.
If you're doing 1.1 million by legislative intent, that's just aspirational. There's no money appropriated. There are no dollars.
and they can't do anything with it.
But you could do legislative intent to say, it's our intent to continue to support the overdose prevention center. There's no money appropriated here. However, we recognize that if X, Y, and Z criteria are met, there's a need for more money mid-year that
If it becomes operational,
then potentially there could be a request as part of budget adjustment. There could be some language around that. But still, there would have to be a request to come in during budget adjustment. You'd have to build it in to the budget adjustment.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could just outright appropriate the money and say that this money will only be distributed by the Department of Health to the city of Burlington for this purpose if X, Y, and Z criteria are met. But if you do that, just saying if a building is identified, that's not sufficient. I think you want to be more targeted, because to say a building is identified is sort of general, like, oh, we like this building. Instead, you want to say something like you're under contract, the fit up has been completed, you're ready to pay your door. So I think you have to build that out a little bit more, what the actual steps are that would have to be met to get the money.
Right. I didn't hear you.
I'm just saying, identifying building that you would like.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as having the neighborhood agree, city agree,
Right.
and everybody else.
Yeah, it's gotta be something, it's not a big, to fit up this regard. And that the previous funds are being utilized for fit up with the program. Then, yeah. Okay. Can I make a suggestion? Yeah, well, we're running around in circles right now. I'm gonna ask Martina if we would work, and I can work with Katie and Nolan to put together some language that doesn't fully appropriate out, doesn't, but it does. There in this urgency, it gives some assurance that the funds are available.
Can I ask no one a question before we do that? I think some of us are confused about the OSAC rec column. You're saying it's OSAC rec for the future, and I don't see.
So, okay, so this is broken up into. Back on the screen, make it a little clearer. No, I understand.
So it's recommended for future funding. Oh,
So
Where
I,
I see that.
so let me,
The very bottom.
yeah, let me reorient you first. Give me 1 second here.
It's the dark blue.
Oh, my goodness. Got it.
Let
Wow.
me pull it up.
You're pretty happy.
But at least they mentioned $1.1 million.
For some reason, I'm not showing up on my share. So,
I got it. Never mind.
okay, yeah, because this is
Yeah,
new initiatives, new funding.
I thought
Future
it was
funding.
this beautiful formatting that you were.
Well, it's that too.
But it's more than that.
It's more than just a cute color. It's functional. It's fashionable and functional.
Got it.
So the advice recommended that future funding that would be funded 1.1 million. For 2027, not this year.
I'm trying to get that language in. So,
Yeah.
that's it, to come in for future. That's the language.
But if we're gonna do that language, are we also gonna do the syringe services language and or is that?
Oh, because we're not, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
The syringe is already blue.
OPC
It is,
is,
all right, well, what about the contingency management? I mean, that's not included. But that's.
We made the sheet anyway. So, syringes is included, contingency management
It's not.
is not included.
Right.
That was-
That,
But that was a record, so the House committee decided that they wanted to change it now.
Right.
Your decision whether you want to do other things now or wait. It sounds like you want to do maybe do it now or continue on that,
right.
and then continue, that's your call. This is
Okay.
how you want to spend money.
Thank you.
okay. I'm happy with everything else.
Yes.
Okay,
That goes to the benefits.
I understand. We're trying to get rid of. Once you start getting people into recovery and providing the services.
Yeah.
Then they don't need those. Well, it's other things. That's the goal. That was. Okay, so let us, Stolen, is there anything else you share?
No.
All right, so what we'll do is we're gonna call it a day. By today. And we'll come back to this bill as quickly as we can. And look at some language that's all last problem. And then we'll be ready, I think we'll be ready. Okay.